order. If you could all stand for an invocation by Pastor Michael Burton.
Thank you for this privilege, allowing us to come here today. We thank you for your bountiful blessings and your grace and your mercy. We pray for discernment, for knowledge, and for wisdom and understanding as they go about to do their duties in this council today. Ask that you will continue to bless the city of Fostoria and keep our residents safe. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. If you could turn and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Clerk, could you call roll, please?
Lehman. Here. Hodak.
Here.
Cassidy.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
Hall.
Here.
Mendoza. Here. Lake.
Here.
All are present. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the video minutes from the previous meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Lehman, a second by Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak.
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Hall.
Yes.
Mendoza. Yes. Lake.
Yes.
Lehman. Yes.
The video minutes from the previous meeting are approved. Any communications?
I do have a letter from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control wanting to know if council wants a hearing on a liquor license for Casey's Marketing Company on 531 North County Line Street.
Anyone desire a?
Didn't we already, like,
I just got this week, so.
yeah, but there was a previous something we discussed? No.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Any other communications? Any more communications?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, sir.
Okay, thank you. We'll go into reports to committees. Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee met this evening at 5:30. We were presented with financials from May. Cash balance reflected that all funds totaled $20.8 million. Revenues are trending slightly behind in the enterprise funds, water and sewer, and there will be an update at this evening's meeting on that, as well as proposed legislation or rate changes. Expenses are running pretty much on track or just slightly below predictions. There was an update on legislation that will be before council this evening. Most of that is statutory requirements. We will have a tax budget to look at, and that needs passed by July 2nd. He also let us know that in July, we can expect some legislation to come forward regarding Parks and Recreation Fund and appropriations in order to move forward with the splash pad. That also will need to be passed at the July 2nd meeting. And then the Safety Service Director provided us with an update that they are presently looking and planning their capital projects so that they can get estimates, and those can be included in the updated 5-year recovery plan. Our next meeting will be Tuesday, July 16th at 5:30 p.m. in council chambers.
Thank you. Public Affairs Committee.
There are quite a few events happening in the upcoming weeks. First, the Let's Build a Bed volunteer opportunity will be held Saturday, June 22nd from 9 to noon at Hope Lutheran Church. No tools or experience needed. Then there will be a community cleanup day on Monday, June 24th from 3 to 5 p.m. Volunteers will meet at Knox US at 931 Springville Avenue for instructions. Next, Blessing Box Building Day will be on Tuesday, June 25th, for those who would like to come and help build some more blessing boxes for Habitat for Humanity. Please call Libra for more information at 419-435-2555. Also, the Lunch on the Lawn will be held on the City Building lawn Wednesday, June 26th, with John Rickle performing a free mini concert. Not Your Mama's Grilled Cheese truck will be there as well. A rain location will be across the street in the banquet room if needed. And finally, the Fostoria Community Arts Council will also be hosting Guitar Fest, held at the Green Space downtown next Saturday, June 29th, starting with an arts and crafts fair from noon to 5 and ending with bands playing from 2:30 to 11 p.m. on the Urban Woody stage. Beer and a variety of food trucks will be available. That is all.
Thank you. Law and Ordinance Committee.
The Law and Ordinance Committee met this evening. Councilperson Lehman will provide information she is researching regarding tracking landlord-tenant data at our next meeting. President Shaver explained our committee processes so that I could have a clearer understanding after asking if proposed legislation could be vetted through our committee prior to the first reading. Deb Tyson inquired about where we were in updating street parking. Renee Volkeslong inquired about the signage at Elm and Perry. Mayor Manel suggested looking into recreational marijuana zones since we currently only have medical. The Law and Ordinance will meet again on Tuesday, July 16th at 5:15 here in council chambers.
Thank you. Report of officers. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Saturday, we held our first tire recycling day in coordination with OSS Solid Waste District. We collected almost 700 tires. They've all been cleaned up and delivered now. Also Saturday, we had a very successful Juneteenth celebration, very well organized and very nice event. And I'd also like to shout out a thank you to our street crews who worked last night and today to get all the trees cleaned up that came down with that storm yesterday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director of Public Service and Safety.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we had talked about the last meeting, that pickleball court project has begun over on Buckley Street and is well underway, and look forward to that being done this summer so that the folks that have enjoyed that spot over there on Buckley Street can get back over there and get to their pickleball playing. We also had a conversation with ODOT District 2 concerning the 2025 paving project that is on schedule for summer of next year, and that is from the mid-block intersection on Lytle Street down to the 23 cutoff and all the way out 23 to the city limits. And it's estimated that sometime in the next month or so, we'll get the final, well, not the final, but the most updated estimate on what our portion would be. That's part of the 80-20 urban paving projects that ODOT does. So we will have a portion that we've been saving up for the last 5 years or so with infrastructure money, with the last estimate for our portion of being in the $750,000 range for that project, plus any concrete work that needs to be done, the curbs and curb ramps and anything they find underneath is broken. So it'll be interesting to get that updated estimate of that for that project, and we report back to you as soon as we do know that. And another thing that was in this year's recovery plan, the upgrade to the intersection of Poplar and the Center Street underpass has just started within the last couple of days. They started laying some footers for where they're going to put some new poles in. That'll bring those lights at Center Street and Center Street underpass and Poplar Street up to the ODOT standards with the new lights and the LEDs and all that. So that will be a nice upgrade to that intersection there. And I think that my report for right now. So appreciate your time.
Thank you. Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of points that I didn't clarify very well. On the tax budget, that's going to be able to have 2 readings. It just won't be able to have a third. The same with the splash pad ordinance that you'll see on July 2nd. That would only be able to get 2 readings, not 3, because we want to incorporate that legislation into the fiscal recovery plan. So I didn't clarify that very well. In terms of tonight's legislation, I apologize how much financial is on the legislation, but all necessary. The first one is to make some changes to our permanent appropriations, so we're going to adjust our budget. The first two sections of that, actually the first three sections, sections 2, 3, and 4 of that ordinance relate to the airport terminal project. I did report to finance back in May and provided a handout that showed what we had budgeted versus what we now know in terms of matching dollars on the grants, as well as our share of non-eligible expenses on the terminal. And so sections 2, 3, and 4 of that first ordinance address that. Section 4, we actually advance money out of the general fund, $185,000, to the grant fund, because once we do not get the grant dollars until we spend them, and then we will get those dollars back after we spend them and repay the general fund. So we had to adjust. You also see section 5, we are appropriating $261,000 out of the local recovery fund. Those are the American Rescue Plan dollars that we still had available. When we did the budget back in the fall of 2023, we were thinking that we would have spent all of those dollars on our North Main Street project. However, some of those dollars that we spent were not ARPA eligible, so that left $261,000. Before we can spend those dollars, we have to actually get council to approve that we can spend those dollars. So the money's sitting there. It's going to go towards a street or water line project, I believe. And so what will happen is you'll appropriate these dollars. We will complete the project, pay for it in the water fund, but then actually transfer these dollars into the water fund to offset the cost. The last section 6, the $6,000 on that same project on North Main Street, phase 4, we didn't think would be closed out and amortizing already, but it did close out. And so this is our first loan payment on those dollars on phase 4 of the North Main Street project. And so our principal payment on that, it's an interest-free loan, is $12,000 a year. We didn't think that would start till January of 2025. Our first payment actually is going to be due July 1st, and so we need to appropriate that $6,000 so we can go ahead and make that payment. That is what the changes to our budget are on that first ordinance. The second ordinance just approves advancing the airport grant fund from the general fund. The third one is a then and now. We purchased a pickup truck for the fire department, and that's in the capital plan. It's in the fiscal recovery plan, as is the conversion to an emergency vehicle with the lights and everything that you need to do. However, the conversion part, the purchase order was put in after the invoice was received, which is not how we are supposed to do business. So for us to go ahead and pay that, need council approval. I just want you to know that we do have that in the budget. We just didn't do things correctly there. And then the sewer rate ordinance, we can talk more about that at that point in time. I'll share more information just so we don't take too much time out. The tax budget, again, that's a tentative tax budget. It's strictly right out of the fiscal recovery plan. We have to provide it to the Budget Commission at Seneca County so that the Budget Commission can look at our resources that are being generated, i.e. the property taxes, and certify what they believe our resources are going to be for 2025. Once they do that, then we begin our budget process and formally put together the budget for 2025. So this is just a tentative budget of what we think we're going to spend. It's based out of the 5-year forecast. It's more procedural than anything else. It doesn't need to be passed on an emergency tonight, but on the July 2nd meeting, it will need to be passed as an emergency because by law, we have to pass our tax budget by July 15th. We don't meet till the 16th. That's all I have.
Thank you. We will now move into the public portion, and before we do, I'd like to have a bit of a discussion about that or make a statement about public portion of the meeting. There are 2 people on the agenda that have the opportunity to speak for up to 10 minutes. I had made a couple missteps at the last meeting, so I wanted to reiterate that you have the right to come up here and speak, but you must identify yourself. I did fail to ask someone to identify themselves at the last meeting. So I apologize for that. You are allowed to address council and council only. You may make statements. If you ask questions, they are considered to be rhetorical. Council members could answer them, but no one else has to answer, and council members do not have to answer your questions. This is not a dialogue. It is not a discussion during this portion. If you want to have dialogue and discussion with city officials or council members, that should be done through contacting them before or after a meeting, sometime between the meetings, or so on. Sometimes we allow for that discussion because it's for the benefit of the whole, but that is not what the intent of the public portion is for. And another point to this is that the city officials that are over here in the jury box are here basically as a courtesy to council to be present so we can conduct business more efficiently. They do not have to be here, and this is not their meeting. So to try to have a discussion or dialogue with them is inappropriate. And furthermore, if those people wish to respond, the etiquette generally is to ask permission to talk to the person in the public, which you generally guys do. I'm just trying to be transparent. And then finally, I've reflected on this over the last couple of weeks, and we all put a lot of thought into whether or not we wanted to be elected officials when we sat here. And I think it's responsible for all of us. You know, we realize that we need to have thick skin and that we have people that will come and make accusations of us. But none of us are here to line our pockets, to do nefarious illegal things. We all have a responsibility of calling out our colleagues if they are trying to do illegal things. We have cities nearby us that are doing much more illegal things, and there are people being prosecuted for that. They're elected officials. To my knowledge, there is no one here doing anything nefarious, illegal, or inappropriate. We all want to serve the citizens of this community to the best of our ability. And it's been increasingly frustrating in the last several weeks where people use social media as the basis for their information and come and bring false information to us and accuse us of doing things that's absolutely not true. Certainly you have a responsibility to hold us accountable. So if you think something is nefarious is going on, you should definitely say something. And we do have a responsibility to make sure that we are transparent enough to understand that we are doing what we're supposed to do. But I just thought it would be a good meeting to kind of go over the rules for public portion. The people that have asked to be on the public portion get 10 minutes. Anyone else in the audience, after those people have an opportunity to speak, get the opportunity to speak for 3 minutes. So the first person up tonight is Deb Tyson.
Deb Tyson, 800 Woodward Avenue, Lot 9. And I want to thank everyone for us being able to hold such a meeting here where we can speak. I am trying to find other places, other meetings that I can go to, because I have learned that whether it's department or a section, that you need to address what it pertains to. They're better to answer than questions. But everybody here, and that includes administration, has always answered my questions respectfully and give me an explanation that I can understand. And I think that some of that social media people, they're not listening to the whole YouTube meeting, just like some people exit out of here after they've done their part, whatever it would be. Maybe they have something to go to, but if it's a matter, I've seen where you guys have discussed something, whether it's in the beginning or the middle, and there's been an answer to whatever it was towards the end. So the whole meeting is important. I do want to invite everyone, that's anybody listening as well as everybody here, to June 20th, 7 p.m., Washington Township Firehouse, 106 Gibson Street, Arcadia, Ohio. And I have been talking to the Aperia inspector, and he plans to try to come as well. And he has quite a drive, but he thinks it's important. And he told me how important he thinks that it is. And he's not one of us. It's not his community. Um, and let's see here. Oh, yeah, public events. I wish that we could mention when farmers markets are each month. Because for some reason, since they changed it to more Thursdays and less Saturdays, we're not having a good turnout because even I have trouble figuring out when it is. And yeah, so I don't know if somebody can figure that out. I have a very serious matter now. The splash pad that everybody wants to do whatever they want to do about it. Well, we just had a big shootout on a splash pad, not in our community, and 9 people suffered. Nobody died as far as I know, but there's is it 2 that were okay or 2 that were critically, they don't know if they're going to make it, but out of 9. But it was a 4-year-old, 11-year-old, and the mother. They're all fighting for their lives. Okay. The mother took 3 shots trying to protect her babies, as any of us would do. This guy did 36 rounds. I cannot remember exactly where it was. And that is the only thing I can see that social media, no, it was not Facebook, it was something else. And it was on the news. So I would like for whoever's over it to consider when they're implementing splash pad, somebody needs to hone into the safety part specifically because we live in a different world than any of us grew up in. And I love Fostoria. You know, I want Fostoria to keep going. I don't want to bring whatever's out there in the world in here. So that's just me. But again, I would like to invite anybody that didn't write it down, June 20th, 7 p.m. That's this Thursday. And if you don't know where it's at, if you know where Katie's Corner is, you can still find it. It's only a street, 1 street to the left. You see the fire engines, but 106 Gibson Street. And I'm asking everybody that can attend it, because now this is a person, the zoning inspector, he's, you know, an expert, as they would say. And he said it is important. So that's all I have to say. And I thank you
Ms.
guys.
Tyson. Next up is Renee Vogelsong.
Renee Vogelsong, 702 East High Street. Of course, Fostoria. First off, when I was younger, we lived over in Defiance. We had this for kids to do. Of course, at that time I was a kid. Hey, been a few years, but we had little activities at the parks. Kingsbury Park, Pontiac Park. There was a number of parks around there. Each park had a little bit of activity for kids during the summer, during their summer off from school. A lot of it was done by volunteers. The city was involved with it, and so was the citizens. It was a combined effort. Later in life, as my kids was growing up, we had it again, seen it again in other towns. We got a number of parks. All of them is right close in little areas of town that these small kids can get to. There's nothing for the kids, the small kids. All the events for adults, a lot of drinking, a lot of having fun, dancing, music. That's fun, but not for kids. I would like to see if there's something that y'all could work together at to bring up to make a parks activity committee for the summer for kids. Guess maybe 1 or 2 of the council or somewheres, and then the rest of them citizens to join in on the committee. And different parks have things on the weekends for a kid, a Saturday morning or something, for different age groups, for the young ones to come in. The the preteens and have them something to come in. Maybe out of one of the activities, maybe the chief would have a cruiser come up there and the kids can see what it's like to hit a siren or hit the lights, or the fire department maybe bring a truck out, leave them see it. They can paint rocks. They can do just that little bit for kids to do. That would enlighten a lot for the city. We would see where we got something for the kids to do. You're worried about money with it? There don't have to be a whole lot of money. Get sponsors. I used to sit on a pretty good sized committee in Findlay, and I was in charge of getting sponsors in that. I went around to get sponsors for the events. It wasn't that hard. You just got to talk. I mean, we got Callie's, we got Poet, we got Knox, we got Manel, we got ADM, Ropey. You got smaller ones. You got restaurants. I know a lot of the restaurants would say, hey, yeah, we'll bring the water out. We'll bring the ice out, coolers. You know, I mean, we got to do something. But keeping on the parks, I had brought it up a long time ago, a cheap way to stop this stuff from being damaged at the parks, maybe not stop it, but find out who's doing it and curb it, is field cams. They're cheap. You get 2 of them for $69, Roll King. They're good for a number of days on the cart, and they only get it when the motion's out there. Well, you're going to see who's damaging. You got a slide over here at Foundation Park that's just recently been damaged. You got another one that's somebody went inside the tube at the city park and painted graffiti inside the tube. Was it kids? Was it adults? Was it teens? I don't know. Nobody knows. You know what? A camera would have helped figure it out who went in there about that time and maybe had a spray paint can in their hand or had a backpack on that were, well, pretty obvious. But, you know, I mean, and we got parks that's deteriorating bad. We just had one at Portage Park over here. The bridge was deteriorated so bad that a concerned citizen was worried that a child or a dog was going to fall through it. The boards was that deteriorated. He went out. This man, I just use his first name, Jason. He didn't want to come up here with me today because he didn't want to be front and center with it up here. But he's been on social media about it because he asked for some more deck screws if somebody could at least donate it. He donated his own wood to re-deck part of that bridge. Now that's a concerned citizen. He did that so somebody wouldn't fall through. And he actually said, so the city wouldn't be sued. Well, you got concerned citizens out here doing this stuff that the city should be doing. Instead of tearing out a whole park, and that could have been just resurfaced, redid a little bit, tear out a whole park for a pickleball court. Come on. What are they going to do? Are they going to fix the basketball court? Nobody's ever said anything about that, the basketball side of it. Because I'm guarantee you the teenagers ain't going to get out there and play pickleball. But that's a moot point because we've went over that. We've thrashed it. But it's the part that they can do that and put in a lot of money. I don't know how much that costs, but I'm sure it was in pretty high number for what it's looking like. It is looking nice, but why couldn't they do the bridge? This gentleman that's had surgery recently, that's disabled, that did that, he's going to back out and redo the benches because the benches are the same way. You can't sit on them without getting splintered. He's doing that on his own time, his own money. And all he's asking for is when he gets low on deck screws, can somebody donate some? A few people went out to Ace and bought some for him. I mean, I don't think it's fair that we can do something that isn't going to have no value at a place, that much money, and leave other places deteriorate down or leave it get damaged and not want to do anything with it. So I just hope that y'all, on the closing side here, will at least make a public statement somewheres of what you can do and what you want to do with these parks. Because if not, they're just going down. They're getting bad. You know, come out and say something. Let the citizens know you're there and you're going to work with them. You know, other than just a little bit right here saying you'll work with them. Come out and let us know you're working with us. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Vogelsong. This time, we'll turn it over to the other members of the public that wish to address council. Again, please come up, use the microphone, state your name, your address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jill Affiliator, 402 West Culbertson Street. I'm going to piggyback a little bit on what Renee had said. Last meeting, I spoke directly to you in regards to the fact that you have totally repealed the Park and Recs board with nothing in its stead. And I waited to hear from somebody to give a statement of the concern because it's been going on for a while. I heard from nobody from council saying that we know that there's an issue. We plan to do something. We know we repealed. We know that the ordinances were in place and things were done under ordinance that shouldn't have happened. I heard nothing. I have been very firm on my belief that this should not have occurred, that there should have been a Park and Recs board, and things should have been done Park and Recs for the past probably 4 to 5 years. As a result, I did notify those beings that I was filing a formal complaint with the state auditor because I had some concerns about monies. I then waited. My evidentiary will go forth now because nobody called me back from this council. Nobody here took the time to take to the concerned citizen who is trying, but I won't be discussing it anymore because I've done everything I can. I feel that the council has let the citizens of Fostoria down. But I won't discuss it anymore. I'm going to let the forensic auditor. I said, we're under fiscal emergency. And their response was, if they don't have the knowledge, the auditor, given the knowledge of the finances in that regard, they can't be held responsible for it. So I'm just sharing that I am very disappointed in the council in that regard. My last thing that I wish to talk about, however, is back in April of 2023, we had a fine for the water, the EPA, for violation of that federal decree in 2005. Many of you are new to council. I asked to speak about it, and in September, Jason, I think his name is Jason, the old safety service director, had a meeting with me. I do not know if all of you have gotten your copy of this from when it occurred, but Jason gave it to me, explained the whole thing, saying we were fined $261,000, which we got 99% reduction because we didn't have the attorney. But if it happens again, then they're not going to be as generous with this. So I have enough copies for you guys, for those who have yet to see it. It has something to do with the wetlands. It has something to do with the completion dates now have to be done by 2027. And if not, then there's more charges or things that can happen. But I don't think some of you new people here have ever even seen this to know, because it was such a glaze over when they announced it in council saying, we got a fine, but we only have to pay $2,600 of it. And it was just sort of pushed underneath. But I do have it. I have copies if you guys would like to see it. I will leave a pile here if the public wants to see it, because I was given it freely from the safety service director with no instructions on it. So I have it here if anybody's interested in seeing it. Okay, I'll leave it sit there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Affiliator. Any other members of the public wish to address council?
Wow. Good evening. I'm going to be very brief.
State your name and address, please.
My name is Michael Burton. I'm the pastor of First Baptist Church, and we're going to use our local address here, 534 Lynn Street. I'm actually from Toledo. We commute, but I know you don't want that address. All right. I've had the privilege today of meeting our mayor for the first time. That's what I came down for earlier, and we had a good discussion with him, and I'm glad that I was able to do that. My concerns were already voiced with him privately, so I don't really need to voice them openly in this meeting, other than to say that First Baptist Church is the oldest African-American church in the Tri-County area. And we will be celebrating 135 years in gospel ministry on August 18th and the 25th of this month. We are planning a celebration, which we're putting together downtown. I still have some work to do. I have a secretary that's on top of some permits that we need to pull, and hopefully we'll get everything done and finalized that we'll be able to use the green space out here on the 24th. We would like to bring in a gospel band, first of all, from like 3 to 5 p.m. And then from 5 to 7 p.m., there's an 80s, 90s R&B band that's all old folks are playing the instruments, and it's all clean music, and it's you can dance to it if you want to. We want food trucks and some things for the kids to do to help celebrate. Now we are looking for sponsorship for this event, which I've already presented some information to the mayor and to some of the other businesses in the area to help us make this a success. And we're hoping that if the council sees fit, if talking to the mayor and you have it available to help us and help sponsor part of this event, we'll be glad to put a big streamer up, help sponsored by Fostoria City Council or Fostoria, whatever it is. But in any event, even if you do not sponsor us, please come out and participate with us. Please come out and get to meet the members of First Baptist Church so that you'll know them when you see them. We're a really good group, and they can cook really well too. So you're invited to come and eat there. He'll tell you we can cook very well. I didn't get this just by
Was that August 24th?
August 24th. Yes, sir. Is when we'll be doing our celebration. And you're invited to come out and enjoy yourself. You're also invited to come to First Baptist at any time on Sunday. Come in and fellowship with us. Let me know that you're there. And if you need time, if you want to address the congregation, let me know. We'll do that too. All right? But we do want to get to know you, and we want to be able to be a help to this city. And we're working on some things with the young people to get some of our youth off the street and get them into a constructive and focused area so that, they can be productive people in society. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Pastor Burton. We will move into old business.
First one is still tabled. Do you want to announce that?
The first piece is tabled.
Like to move to
Her mic's not down.
Yeah, she was talking to me.
Right, I was talking to him.
She was helping me do my job. So we have a motion to pull the first ordinance off the table by Mendoza. Do we have a second?
Second.
Ready? We have a motion to pull the ordinance off the table by Mendoza, second by Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
That has been untabled. It is now on the floor to be discussed.
A big portion of this is missing vital information. The special event permit is still not in existence. I'm surprised council enacted this originally without that being in place, but I trust it was with good intentions. However, I can't really verify what all it will entail. And to me, that's concerning. It's been 5 years and there's still no special event permit. It's hard for me to understand why this would be presented to us again for amendments without that still in place. But I think it's because we don't need it. The current all events permit application is all encompassing and sufficient for all events, even those centered on mobile food units on public property, including the $250 cleanup deposit. There's no need to create a special event permit when we can use the all events permit already in place. Those on private property should not have to apply. The amendments through section A and C cover any concerns there. And I just think that we should reflect not only what is truly needed, but also, and perhaps more importantly, what is actually being followed. Again, I believe the amendments in section A through C are great. Section D is missing the necessary documents in order for it to be enforceable. And I think our procedures should match our legislations. We shouldn't have a law if we can't act upon it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Therefore, I move to repeal Section D of 745.04 Mobile Food Special Permit.
Section D.
Section D. There's no special event permit.
All right, we have a motion to repeal Section D by Mendoza. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second by Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll to repeal Section D, as in dog?
Baker,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes?
Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
No.
Hall. You skipped Hall.
What?
You skipped Hall.
oh, Hall, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you.
That does carry. Motion, or Section D is repealed from that.
Furthermore, I move to repeal Section E of 745.04. I just think it's much too broad, and again, it's unnecessary. The requirements in the previous sections A through C prevent the need for Section E.
There a second to the motion to repeal Section E, as an elephant?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Lake. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes?
Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
No.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
That does carry as well. Section E is repealed from this legislation.
I move to approve the amendments in Section A through C of 745.04 and the amendments to 745.05.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Move to approve the amendments in Section A through C of 745.04 and the amendments to 745.05.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, a second by Lehman for those amendments. We'll make sure you get a copy of that before it gets completely revised, before it's signed. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
No.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes?
Lake.
Yes.
That too carries. Any other discussion? Is there a motion to
That
pass
should
it
give
as,
us
what's that?
what the last motion was, so we should have an ordinance number for that.
Okay, so you were. Gotcha,
Approving
I'm
the
sorry,
amendment.
misunderstood. I thought you were making another motion to change the legislation. So that does become ordinance number 2024-45. I will get with it shortly. Thank you. And you'll have to revise the whole, we'll have to get it revised before we sign it and make sure that the changes are,
Are they gonna take
So
that,
I'll-
Stephanie?
so yeah, Stephanie will give us a copy that
Okay.
we'll sign for the next meeting.
Okay,
So this won't be signed tonight
That's fine.
because it has to make sure it gets
absolutely.
changed.
Okay,
All right, you want to read the next one?
absolutely. An ordinance to authorize, direct, and empower the mayor of Director of Public Service and Safety to terminate the plan of operation and governance of the NOPEC Natural Gas Aggregation Program and to leave the NOPEC Natural Gas Program and declaring an emergency to exist.
Move to adopt. Second.
We have a motion by Lake, a second by Podak to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake,
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
That one does pass as ordinance number 2024-46. We'll move into new business.
A resolution establishing the job description for the position of Clerk of Council for the City of Fostoria, Ohio.
That is the first reading of that ordinance.
An ordinance adopting and amending ordinance number 2023-66, permanent 2024 appropriations by appropriating from unappropriated funds in the general fund, airport grant fund, local fiscal recovery fund, and sewer fund, and declaring an emergency.
So to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions. Second.
We have a motion by Lake, second by Cassidy, to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
The three reading rule has been suspended.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Hall, second by Baker to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak.
Yes.
That does pass as ordinance number 2024-47. Next one.
An ordinance entitled "An Ordinance Authorizing an Advance to the Airport Grant Fund with such advance to be repaid before year end 2024, declaring an emergency."
That's the first reading of that ordinance.
A resolution approving and ratifying the prior acts of the department heads and safety service director and approving then and now certificates for said expenditures and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the three reading rule on three separate occasions.
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, second by Baker. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy.
Yes.
The three reading rule has been waived.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Mendoza, second by Lake to adopt. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
That carries. It becomes resolution number 2024-48. Next one.
An ordinance amending section 941.03 of the codified ordinances of the city of Fostoria, Ohio relating to sewer rates and declaring an emergency to exist.
I believe the finance director asked for some discussion on this one.
I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what's changing and why. So on your Exhibit A, you'll see on the lower half of that are the fixed costs. And that amount stays the same every month regardless of how much somebody uses. Those numbers were revised in January. What was not revised in January was the unit rate. And based on the fiscal recovery plan, the fiscal recovery plan has both sets of rates changing. And that's why we're not meeting budget expectations on the sewer rates. So the rates that are on the top, what they represent for a resident, the sewer rate would be going up 48 cents per unit. And again, understand 1 unit is 748 gallons of water. On average, a household will put about 5 units or use about 5 units a month. So that 48-cent increase is going to be somewhere between $2.50 and $3.50 a month increase on the average person's sewer rate. My recommendation, but again, I understand it is council's prerogative. My recommendation is that it is passed on an emergency basis, but if it's not, I understand why. We are running behind forecast on our revenues. This just helps us get back to where we need to be.
discussion, please.
Yeah.
When these rates came out, I wanted to collect some comparables. So I started contacting some neighboring communities to see what their rate sheets look like, just to see, once if we implement these rate increases, how do we compare to some of our neighboring communities? And after I heard back from 2 or 3, I could see that I was not going to be successful putting together, I had hoped to put together for you a spreadsheet that would show apples to apples, Fostoria to Finley, Fostoria to Tiffin, so on and so forth. I could see that was not going to be the case. So I reached out to the Ohio Water Development Authority and asked them if they collected that information. And they indicated to me that they do collect that from communities that have loans with them. And they run into the same problem when they're asking for rates. So what they ask them to disclose on their loan surveillance filing is the average residential monthly bill, okay? They had 2022 data to provide to me, and they gave it to me for these communities, so I wanted to share this information with you. The average monthly residential sewer rate, and I'm going to go from the highest to the lowest. Tiffin, $92.54. Upper Sandusky, $54. Fremont, $32.11. Fostoria, $28.94 with the current rate, or in 2022, and Bowling Green at $19.99. So of those 5 communities that they were able to provide me in the area, we are second to the lowest. And then when I looked at Mr. Danduran's estimate that the average bill would increase by $2 to $3 a month, we would still we would still be in the same position looking at those communities. And I would also add that I called Bowling Green and they indicated they were looking to do an increase as well. So take that for what it's worth, but I thought the information might be helpful to you.
Is there any further discussion?
Just one observation. Increases are not a real,
Microphone. I'm sorry.
increases are never popular. They're very unfavorable. I'm guilty of complaining on increases. As the figures were presented by my contemporary over here, we're one of the best deals going yet. The city has faced, as other communities have, substantial increases in chemicals for treating the drinking water, costs as far as the wastewater as well. Tremendous increases in the chemical cost. We have debated as council over the last number of years since I've been on the idea of trying to increase the rates, try and keep pace with what's going on, and we've tried to hold back because the city was in financial emergency. The community was not doing very well as far as our citizens, and so we tried to strike a balance of trying to minimize the cost, avoid increases, and it's catching up with us. And the longer that we debate this, the longer we put off putting these necessary rates in, it's just going to get worse. And I know it's not going to be popular, but I advocate that we put this legislation through immediately. That's all I have to say.
Make a motion to suspend a 3 reading rule on 3 separate occasions.
Second.
We have a motion by by Lake, going to give the second to Cassidy, for suspending 3 reading rule. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Blake,
Yes.
Lehman,
No.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza.
No.
That motion to suspend does carry.
Move to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion by Lake, second by Cassidy for adoption. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza,
Yes.
Lake.
Yes.
That does carry. It becomes ordinance number 2024-49. The last piece of new business. Thank you.
A resolution adopting a tentative tax budget commencing January 1st, 2025 pursuant to Section 5705.28A2 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring an emergency to exist.
That is the first reading of that ordinance. That concludes new business. Is there any need to go into executive session? Is there any miscellaneous business this evening? Seeing none, we'll take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Cassidy, a second by Lehman. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Lehman,
Yes.
Hodak,
Yes.
Cassidy,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Mendoza, Lake.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 6:56.